a few main things that we're going to be touching on this call. In the holiday spirit, we'll be using Bolt to create a site for your loved ones today, but we'll also be adding password protection onto your site, done in a secure way using a server function. We'll also be using other UI as inspiration for your site, and we'll be seeing how that affects how the site looks. And then we'll be touching on mobile responsiveness. And then hopefully at the time, if we've got time at the end, we'll be able to do some really cool computer vision stuff where we'll be able to recognize hand gestures and then using that, basically be able to create all sorts of effects on our site. So really excited to be sharing this one with you. I hope you guys are able to maybe replicate this for one of your loved ones in time for the holidays. And, maybe it can be a really nice gift that you can share with a loved one. So with that, what I'll do is let me start sharing my screen. Here we go. Should be sharing now. Let me know if you can't see it, but I think we should all be able to see my screen. So I'm going to quickly show you something this is a bit of a preview of the site. This one, I've got a few different versions. So let me show you the one with hand gestures. Set that away. So we'll wait for this site to load. Great. So you can see in the background, we've got a responsive hero section. This is basically starts a camera. Oh, wait, I think I have done the wrong project. I've been testing out a few of them, so we've got a variety of different features that I will be showing. But you know what? We'll have time for that in a sec. What we're going to do is let's kick off our initial build. So what I've done is I've gone onto Dribble, and I'm sure some of you already know about this ability to either start with a Figma frame, or you can start with a screenshot, and shots work great. So what I've done is I've saved this one and then also this one into just onto my desktop. And now we're going to use those as a prompt to create the project. So what you see here, this was prompted without a screenshot. So you can see it's done a typical landing page. It looks pretty good, but there are maybe some styles that I don't particularly like. And AI tends to, when it's creating, it'll sort of stick to what it knows. It's trained on, all like a lot of code out there on the internet. And so whatever is the most common is what it will tend to resonate towards unless you prompt it differently. So that's why I think it's often great to find some inspiration online, not directly copying. They do say great artists steal. So I don't want you to, directly copy someone, but it can often be a really good starting point that you can use these screenshots, and then the AI itself will, create its own spin on it. So let's jump into our initial prompt. I'm going to read it out for you guys. So please build a landing page to show how much I love and appreciate my mum. Please use the attached screenshot as UI inspiration for the hero section. The page should use red as its primary color, use soft gradients in the background, use a modern and elegant font. Structure. So the section should either be public or private. Private sections should be protected by a password modal. The password should be mauve, as I think you pronounce it in America. And the question should ask, what is mum's favorite color? Public section should be hero, about, and gallery. And the private section, we should have the reviews. So please create a database table called reviews, which should include review and name. Please include an add review button so anyone who has filled the password can add a review. So the idea is that you've got this site for a loved one, and you can log, what's special to you about them. You can save a custom message, and you can share this with other people in your family. So if they want to save something about the loved one, then they're able to fill out the password and then log onto here as well. And the reason why I've implemented password protection is because it's one sort of step before creating like user authentication. Instead of the users actually having to create a like their own sign up, like every time they come to the site and logging in. This is just a simple way that they can fill out the password and then they've got access to the database. And then we've also got a gallery upload section as well, where verified users should be able to upload photos and images should be publicly visible in the gallery section. Great, so I'm going to copy all of this. We'll jump into our builder. I'll paste the prompt. Now, the file that I'm going to attach, if I go to desktop, we're going to have a look. So this is one of the screenshots, and I actually quite like the look of this one. So let's choose this, have a look that we've got kind of like different fonts between the two different headings there. We've got sort of like some floating buttons around the side. So we're going to open that and we're going to use that as our UI inspiration. And we are going to enhance the prompt, as we usually suggest with the first prompt. And this creates a bit of a structured prompt, as you can see. It breaks it down a little bit clearer for the AI. All right, now we will build this. Okay, one other thing that I forgot to mention at the start is we should have time at the end today if people want to do a little bit of show and tell. So while I'm building this, if you feel like you want to share your project with the rest of the community here, feel free to raise your hand and we can spend some time. We'll try and save a little bit of time at the end. And then if you've got any questions during the build, feel free to raise them and we can answer them while the project itself is building. All right. Great, so we'll let that build. And in the meantime, there's a site that I'd love to share with you guys. If we have a look here, not sure if you've heard of this before, React Bits. It's a fantastic component library where you can basically copy and paste some of these like incredible React components into your project. And it really makes it feel like it's been created by like a modern web developer. So you can see the background has this cool effect. If we come into browse components, let's have a look and we can see we have all sorts of different effects. So for example, look at this Balatro background that sort of spirals a bit. We've got one here called anti-gravity, and we can see how the effect kind of, mirrors where the cursor is and it passes that effect through into the hero section or whichever section we choose to implement it in. We've also got all these parameters down the bottom here and we can change how it looks. And now if we did want to implement something like this, we can come into code. As I've shown on previous workshops, we basically just copy this bit of code. We go into our terminal, we run it. We'll notice in the package.json file that appears there. And then if we want to use the code, make sure that we're on TypeScript and Tailwind. And then over on the right here, there's a little copy button. And we can just copy that code, paste it into our terminal or into our Bolt agent and say, use this to implement the anti-gravity code, and it should be able to do so. So this is, I think, when I first started discovering some of these like React components, it feels like you've just opened up a whole new world of what's possible. For example, like some of these would take several iterations to prompt in Bolt, but just by copying in some of these React bits, we can have like a really interactive, appealing, engaging card slider like this. So let's jump back in. We'll see how we're doing. So, yep, it's still working on the plan. All right. Let's see if there's any in particular here that we may want to implement. Fluid glass. I'm actually going to open this up to you who are watching. Does anybody have any favorite component libraries that they've been using? If you do, feel free to add it in the chat and share with the others, because a lot of the React libraries are free. Some of them you need to pay for, but a lot of them are free, and it feels like you're building up your, I guess, like arsenal of tools available. And especially because a lot of, I guess, code generation does sort of stick to a bit of a standard pattern. You know, maybe 6 months ago, we were seeing a lot of kind of like blue and purple AI generated websites. And like there are typical formats that the AI does like to follow. So by using these component libraries, as I was saying, it's like a fantastic way that you can leverage a lot of work that's already been done by the open web community and bring those directly into your site. All right, we're almost done here. Now, what we've done is because we've asked it to be password protected, my guess is that it's probably just implementing that in the front end code. Now, it's important for us to know the difference between like our client side code, our front end, that's all the code that gets sent to the browser. And then also we've got our server-side code, which is basically run on the server that the client themselves, the user, doesn't really have access to. They just send requests to the server-side code, it gets processed and then sent back. So my guess is the way that this has been implemented is it probably has, wow, have a look at this. Yeah, so my guess the way it's been implemented is it probably isn't fully secure just yet. It's probably uses the password in the client side code. And for somebody who knows what they're doing, they can just go in, inspect your site, and they can quite quickly find where that password would be. So let's have a quick, let me get this guy out of the way. So let's have a quick look at the site and what it's done. So it's done a pretty good job so far. So to the most amazing mum, a heartfelt tribute to the woman who gave us everything, yada yada yada. Should probably, if we're going to actually send this to a loved one, we should probably write some of this ourselves. But it's done a pretty good job so far. I like how it's added these quote sections, it's added some beautiful memories, and it's used stock photos to do this. And then it's got this words of love section that we can add our review. So what happens if we click add our review? It looks like it's asking for a password, right? So if we write red, continue, didn't work. But I bet if we write mauve, then I'm sure it would. Now, as I was saying, let's quickly look through our files and actually see what I'm doing is I'm searching for the word mauve in our code, and we can do that by coming into our code section here and then just typing in search, and you'll see our password modal. It actually contains the password itself in the client side code. So this is something that's really important for you guys to be aware about is anything that requires that sort of includes like personal data, or if it's a security thing like this, like logging in and having access, or if it's say like really complex business logic, maybe it's like some of your intellectual property. Those are the sort of things that you maybe necessarily don't want your clients to be able to see and read through all of that IP. So that's a good rule of thumb, whether you use a server function or whether you use client side code like this. If it's like a simple UI interaction or navigating through the different pages of the site, that's something where you can maybe leave it on the client side code. So as I was saying, we've just discovered that the password itself is in the code base. Now, sometimes you may not know to search this, and it can be a little bit confusing as to where the security gaps are and where they aren't. So let's first of all just check that this works. Move, I'll type that in, and there we go. Great. So it looks like it's unlocked that section. We've got the upload if we want to upload photos, and then we've also got these words of love. So let's see if it works. Great. So it's added that. We'll check. We've got our database here, and it was able to successfully add that row to the database. Now, that's another thing that we'd suggest along the way is when you are making any database changes like this, just test them immediately and make sure that it's working. Let's have a look in our server functions. And as we found, there are no server functions yet. So this basically means that maybe we can be a little bit more secure with our password. And now the best thing about this is this can be a simple prompt. So let's say something like this. I've noticed that the password is stored in this client-side code, comma, I would like you to use a server function instead of saving the password on the client-side code. And hopefully with a prompt like that, it should be able to now create like a validate password server function where basically it should send, once you submit the password, send it off to the server where it validates it on the server away from the client's front end, and then returns whether the password was correct or not, and then add permissions to the site. I've noticed that password is stored in the client server. I would like you to add it to the server side. So this should have the effect of keeping my password secure, and so that hackers are not able to determine the password. So I've just added a little bit more context in there, and we are going to send this off. So notice that we're still on Sonnet 4.5. Great. Do we have any questions so far? Let me see. I should open this up. No questions so far? Okay, great. And yes, thank you, Tyler, for clarifying that server functions are edge functions. We've been calling them server functions in Bolt. Edge functions are perhaps a little bit more specific. It's when the code itself is run on a server really close to where the user is. So, if someone's in Europe and you've got the server here in America, then there's a little bit more latency. So the idea is that it's done close to where the client runs their code. Okay, Randy, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, quick question.
Mhm.
Instead of having to go through each time and tell it not to actually display like API keys, user credentials, all that kind of stuff on the client side,
Mhm.
is there somewhere where you can just put project instructions so it holds it for that entire project, kind of like ChatGPT? When you create a custom GPT, you can predefine some settings because I feel like I'm constantly going back in after finding something that is put on the client side. I'm having to go back in and reiterate and use up tokens rather than just having something already predefined in a configuration for the project.
Yes, great question, Randy. And our agent, the way we've configured it with our system prompt is we do have some basic security checks in there, but you're right. Sometimes with this non-deterministic AI, it will have the issue where, it doesn't necessarily stick to your instructions. So a good way to reiterate that is in the project knowledge. Is this something, have you experimented with project knowledge before, Randy?
I have not, so I'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, okay. So for everybody who's not familiar, basically we'll come in here, and once we open our project settings, we can come down, and where you see knowledge, it creates these project instructions, and it basically appends this onto the system prompt when pretty much for every agent call that it makes. So by default, this is what is created for every new project. So for all designs, sorry, Luna. Sorry, just had to mute people. Just raise your hand if you want to join in. So for all designs, I ask you to make them to be beautiful, not cookie cutter, make web pages that are fully featured and worthy for production. By default, it supports JavaScript syntax with Tailwind, blah, 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 React hooks. So basically, this is where you can come in and say you are facing an issue, like you said, where you want to be more specific with security. This is the place where you will customize your project knowledge. We, we,
A little bit of feedback. It'd be great if we just had like on the main initial prompt screen, just like have a toggle for advanced and have it be show the actual, because you can't edit this or interact with this at all until you've actually done one prompt.
yes, yes. So that's a really good point from Eric that yeah, we'll need to create the project first and then this will be created. We also do have, if you come into personal settings and you see we've got knowledge here. And so this is your global knowledge base. And so whatever you add in here, I believe this applies to all of your projects. Interrupt me if I'm incorrect, Tyler, but from my understanding, once you come into this knowledge down here, it'll apply these global instructions to each of your projects.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it works. So that bottom section of the settings, personal settings, on the left side is everything that's account wide. And then above that, project settings is specific. Like that whole section is specific to the project.
Okay. Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Great. So I guess coming back to what you said, Eric, I think if you were to add instructions in here when you do create a new product project, it should apply these global instructions.
Yeah, yes, it would. I would just have to remember to go in and edit those or cancel that
Mhm.
for future projects as it was only project specific, but also adding in documentation like a markdown document or something to the project file or whatever. So it's obviously every single time a canned if your first prompt is a plan or if your first prompt is just hey, don't write any code. My first prompt is often don't write any code, let me add a markdown document and then actually output something.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so just for those of you who aren't really familiar about the Markdown documents, that's a great way that you can enhance your project's memory of what it's created already. So you could prompt it something like, every time I implement a new feature, please add it to my Markdown document that's called features.md. And so and then reference this whenever you're creating new features. So basically has this, it's a good way for it to kind of bookmark what it's created along the way. Okay, so let's have a look. Looks like it's finished. Now we'll jump over into our settings and we're going to look at our server functions. And we can see now it's created this server function called verify password. So now if we have a look through what it said, security improvement, so the password and security answer are now stored and verified on the server, not client-side code. Hackers cannot inspect your JavaScript to find the credentials, which is really important. So just to double check that, let's come in and we'll search Mauve again. So it actually seems like it's okay. So this is in the function. So this is in the verify password function. So you'll see in Superbase, in functions, verify password, that is the only two references we have to the password is within the Superbase functions, which is your server functions. So basically that helps you know that, okay, great, it's not on the client side code. So let's just test that this worked. We'll refresh the site. And I think because I'll just need to reload. Now, I guess to help you guys understand, do people know what JWTs are? JSON Web Tokens? This is something that's issued to you from the server, and this basically helps you preserve authentication. Like you can be like an anonymous user effectively. This is what we are in this case. We're basically a verified anonymous user. So the server, once you've, said the correct password, it'll then send you this JSON Web Token that basically lets the browser know that, okay, you've been verified. Okay, now if we wanted to upload an image, let's see, image be working, image uploaded successfully, and now that's been added to galleries. Great, so it looks like we have most of the functionality intact. We've got the server function, we've got these words of love, so we're adding the review, which are then going into the database. So we've got the gallery images, and then we've also got our reviews here. Great. So now let's have a quick look at mobile responsiveness. So if we come up to this bit here, responsive mode, this is where we're able to toggle from our web view preview or to like a mobile preview. and you can see it's actually already created this hamburger menu for us, which a lot of the times you may not even need to prompt to make it mobile responsive. It tends to do a pretty good job of doing that by default. So we also have the ability to change between the devices. We can create a, custom resolution there. I usually find most of the devices are wider. They're sort of around the 380 mark and wider. So some of them you can see are a little bit narrower than that, like 360. But we've got a lot that are kind of 400, 490 here, 475. So usually when I'm, designing, I try and use one of these narrower views, and it's good to choose a narrower view. Say, here our copy has overflowed, so maybe we wanted to the most to all be on one line. Then I recommend, trying one of these narrower breakpoints, say 375, so that you can kind of inspect how it will look on these smaller devices. Great. Do you have any questions about mobile responsiveness? No? So for those of you who are familiar, something like we've got Bolt Analytics in here. So if we open our settings and we jump into analytics, once we publish the site, we'll be able to see some of these analytics. You can also add in, something like Google Analytics, and just by adding your G tag in there, and that's a great way to kind of determine what devices people are using when they're on your site. Great. So what I'm going to do now is I could continue optimizing this so that it looks really good, but I think just for the sake of time, I don't want to, I feel like we're all fairly good at prompting to making UI changes. Just a quick little overview of our model selector that we've been able to implement recently. So this came out last week, where we're able to add Haiku 4.5, and we've also added Opus 4.5. So as the name suggests, Haiku, it's a short poem. It uses 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. So just think of that as like, it's really small compared to like an opus, which is a giant, piece of music or a body of writing. So, and a sonnet's somewhere in the middle. Now, Haiku, if you want to make like a small change to the copy, that's a great model to use. It's usually a lot faster and very light on token consumption. So if we are making small changes, Haiku is a good model to use. So let's say, please make the font size of the heading that says to the most in the hero section a little bit smaller. There we go. Now, you've probably noticed, if you've been watching these workshops for a while, that previously I was using the native dictation feature on my Mac. Recently, I've downloaded something called Whisper Flow, and you can see it's punctuated, and it's done a pretty good job figuring out that to the most, that's where it's supposed to end the commas. So it's something that I'd suggest if you're doing a lot of prompting, checking out Whisper Flow or some of the other dictation apps that you can install. Usually works really well. So I'll just send that off just to demonstrate we've got the, using Haiku. Great. So now, once that's done, what we're going to do is we're going to implement computer vision into this, which is really exciting. And now there's a whole bunch of libraries out there that we can choose from, but what I'll be demonstrating is the ability for the enhanced prompt, like actually to be able to determine which library to use. Sometimes, we may do a quick Google search and have a basic understanding of the library, but using enhance can be a faster way to do this. So here we go to the most amazing mum. It's made that a little bit smaller and used a lot less tokens than if we were using, say, Opus, for example. Okay, so now we'll implement the computer vision like I was talking. So time for the prompt. I would like you to implement computer vision to recognize my hand. over the hero section, I would like you to cover it with love hearts. As I move my hand around the screen and the hand interacts with the love hearts, it should remove the love hearts, revealing the hero section. So this is an example of, I don't actually know, so because I've done research, I know the actual library, but say you're in a situation where you don't know which library to implement, you can just prompt something like this, where it will do the research for you. So let's do in-hand prompt. And let's just have a quick read through what it wants to implement. So as soon as it's done, scroll up on this. Here we go. So you are a web developer task creating interaction computer vision feature. Now, if we look down in the core functionality, use computer vision, media pipe, or similar to detect hand position in real time via the webcam. So that's exactly what I was talking about. It finds a good library and it suggests that. So that's one example of where, the enhanced prompt is able to help it out a little bit more. Now, in this case, because it's asking quite a lot, it needs to install libraries, and then it needs to maybe do some research and learn how to implement them. And there's probably several files. I'm going to swap it over to Opus 4.5 to implement this. Now, I will put it in plan mode. And the reason why I'm going to put it in plan mode is it just gives it that extra context. It uses a little bit more tokens because the planning itself requires tokens, but it's able to basically scour your files and determine where it wants to make these fixes. And then once you actually implement it, it can save some of those tokens or some of that context for, implementing the code rather than having to do research. Eric, you got a question?
Yeah, at one point, did we say, or does plan mode actually use Opus 4.5, or does it use a different AI? Or did we ever get clarity on that?
Yeah, good question.
But I've stopped personally using plan mode and just using I think what Tyler said, like do not write any code, just using Opus 4.5 or whatever the model is, Codex model, or not Codex, but anyway, I don't know. I just was
Yeah,
curious because at one point I think it was using Gemini or just a different model, not Opus,
yeah.
but
I'm pretty sure discussion mode used to use Gemini 2.5, but then when we moved it over to plan mode, I'm pretty convinced that it's Claude Code, because I know when you're actually using Claude Code on something like Cursor that you can put it into plan mode, and I'm pretty sure that's the implementation of this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case too. It's not Gemini anymore.
okay, great.
Okay, so now we've got the clarifying questions. So don't show the webcam, but indicate where the hand is on the screen. 2, when the user scrolls away from the hero section and returns to the hearts remained cleared, regenerate, just so that we can test it. And then for the mobile experience, would you put touch and drag? So let's say to not implement for mobile. Great, so now we'll turn plan mode off and we will send this over. Okay. Do we have anyone who actually thinks they might be building something for a loved one? I know my dad, he has his own little business, and so I think I'm going to be creating a portfolio website for him. And as you can see, this is the sort of thing that you can do quite quickly. So,
I have one question.
mhm.
When switching between Opus, Haiku, or Sonnet, does that lose context, or does it keep context within the model or within?
Yes. So what it does is it uses basically what is in your chat history. So when you do change between Haiku or Opus, it's still for each prompt that you send off, it uses what's already been saved there. So you don't need to worry about it losing the context from before.
Okay.
Great. So that is implementing. I guess while this is working on this, does anybody have any projects that they'd like to share? I know we're getting towards the end of the year. It's a good time to kind of reflect on your development journey and maybe to plan for the year ahead. I know.
I'll share just generally something that I've been working on for my wife, which is it's just a little micro app that lets us record our son's words as he learns new words, and we get to just record an audio through the app so we can always remember how he mispronounced words, what it sounded like when he said certain words like strawberry and like all kinds of different stuff like that. So that's been fun.
That's awesome, Tyler. What a great sort of memento or way to save some of that cute memories for the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Randy, how about you?
Yeah, I'll share a quick screen real quick.
Mm-hmm.
This is a simple project I've been working on. See if it shows up there for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually in e-commerce. I have about 3 different Shopify stores. So this is kind of just a small little project playing with before I build my big one that I'm going to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And what this project does, it is for Shopify users. So I've got it where when I log in here, you'll import all of your customer reviews. So what we're doing is we're basically using customer reviews to produce ad copy and ad hooks and get product analysis. So we're using OpenAI. This is just a small website I've got here with 37 reviews. We've already added the source. Some of these different sources, like Stamp ID, Judge Me, they'll use an API key that it gives you instructions on how to grab that. So it imports all of your actual reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get these reviews in here, then we can actually do a company review analysis. So it uses AI to go across all of the reviews, give you a quick company summary based on those reviews. From there, you can drop down here and do a per product. Now, what's kind of neat about this app is not only are we using reviews, but we go scrape product pages for context as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then we also use imaging scraping. So we scrape the images to see if there's any text overlay. So if you're a supplement and you've got your fact sheet with your ingredients, we're going to grab all those ingredients also. So we're not only scraping the reviews, we scrape your product pages, and then we scrape your product images for any text overlay. So you can see here our advanced hydration drink mix. We got a quick overview on, we got pros and cons. We got customer frustrations if there are any, improvements, act steps for improvement. Kind of gives you all that. Here you can actually go down through and play and quickly read your customer reviews. It's just kind of difficult once you start getting up several hundred reviews to go through them individually. This gives you a quick AI analysis uh, to get exactly what you need. From here, we can actually pick a copywriter. So we've got several historical professional copywriters. So we can pick David Ogilvy. We can pick one of the products. Our audience, if you're in marketing, you'll know about this. So we got unaware, problem aware,
Mm-hmm.
so forth. You can even give it some guidance. Say it's a Black Friday sale, and you can tell it, hey, focus around my Black Friday sale. We're doing 30% off. It'll take that context and put it into the ad hook, into the ad copy. Since it scrapes my product pages, it knows that I'm actually, this particular company is a supplement brand. So it tries to make sure it gets everything FDA compliant in its marketing. So I'm going to generate hooks real quick.
Love this.
The hooks generate. Once I pick one that I like, then
Mm-hmm.
I can move on to the ad copy.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't like any of these 5 hooks, I can say regenerate hooks.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through and it's going to get that over. So I'm just going to choose one, tired of feeling drained after a long trek, discover what finally energized seasoned adventurers. Once I select that hook, then I can move on to the ad copy. I'm going to get 5 options for add copy. If I don't like those 5 options, I can regenerate copy until I get one that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I can come over here and I'll be able to click on the actual copy icon, and that's going to put it into my clipboard to go to Meta Ads Manager. So I can take
Wow.
this particular ad if I like it, copy it, go straight to Ads Manager, paste that in for my new ad copy for my ad, put my creative there, and I've got a good hook, solid hook. I got good ad copy by the copywriter that I selected based on their tone of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a good way to do quick product, company, and ad copy. So also built in a nice little admin panel so I can see my different users. I've
Wow.
got where they can leave me feedback. They can attach screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
I can, get my API cost to see what things are going to cost. So I said, just a quick, neat little project for someone that runs Shopify stores.
That is awesome, Randy. Well done. And you think how close to completion would you say?
I'm trying to get a few beta testers in there now. I've
Mm-hmm.
got a handful of people that's in a few groups that I'm in. Once I can get some more in there, I mean, the website's live for beta testing, but I should be able to actually go to charging within a few months.
Awesome. Awesome. We can't wait to follow the journey, Randy.
Randy, where do you save when they save their own API keys and stuff to connect to their stores and stuff? Where does your data, do you just save that in a database? Do you secure that in any way, like hash
Yeah,
or?
it is in the database, and I've ran different security. And that's one thing I changed it. Really screwed myself over because I didn't do a separate branch a few nights ago. I chose Opus 4.5 to do a security scan, and it changed so much it broke the entire site. So I could restore the actual app, but then my database configuration was all changed. So it took a
Mm-hmm.
while to repair that. But it is
Mm-hmm.
in the actual database. It's not on the client side. I was doing edge calls to get that information.
That's awesome. I know we did, I think it was last week, we were talking about the ability to basically, back up your database. And so that's something that we've been playing around with. I've spent the last, few days looking into basically claiming to Superbase and then branching your Superbase database. And I actually ran into a little bit of a hurdle myself because I've got two Superbase organizations. Bolt wasn't letting me swap to my other one, and there
Right.
was a bit of a disconnect there. I don't know if you faced the same issue.
I've already claimed the database, so this one actually is on Superbase out from under Bolt.
Mm,
Just because I want to use custom domains for SMTP for emailing, all that kind of stuff.
mhm,
I was having troubles trying to figure out how to do that up under Bolt. Everything I read said I had to actually go and claim the database and do that under the Superbase settings.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
And also, if you log in, I log out here, which is kind of annoying. I do have the Google authentication set up,
nice.
but when I go here to Google, instead of saying continue to e-commerceinsider.com, it's basically saying Superbase. So I got to go through and get all that changed over. I
Mhm,
don't think I could have done that within Bolt. I have to do it within Superbase.
mhm, mhm.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
Um, Connecting Google authentication in Bolt.
Yeah, see, I've got it working.
Yeah.
It's just right here. You can see where it says choose an account, and then it
Mhm.
says connect to.
Yeah, I
It
have.
gives the Superbase URL rather than my custom domain.
This is something I know a bit about. So there's something called, and I'll put it in the chat, cloud.console.google.com, or it might be the opposite. It might be
I think
console.
that sounds familiar.
It's one of these two that I put in the chat.
Okay.
But essentially you would fill out like an application with Google directly, because this page that we're looking at right now, this sign-in screen, is through google.com.
Okay.
You can see accounts.google.com at the top. So they need to
Right.
verify that your application is not like a scam or not like
Gotcha.
a
Okay.
virus or something like that before they're willing to change that name. Um, And once you do, like, you make your account in there and you add your project, you put the domain of your homepage and the domain of your, and there's a couple other things that you got to do, and you can just look up the instructions online.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward. Their UI for the cloud console is definitely made by developers, not by designers. So
It's a little cumbersome. I
navigate.
can remember looking.
It's kind of hard to navigate. It's weird, but just a couple YouTube tutorials and I was able to get it done.
Okay. I will check that out. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure thing.
Great. Okay, so I can see in the chat, thanks, Donald. He's gone off and he's spoken to our engineering team, and he has confirmed that when you're in plan mode, that it uses the same model that you have selected for build mode. So thanks for that, Donald. I'll come back in, share my screen again. Okay, so here we go. Let's finish the build, and let's see what it's been able to create. Just get this out of the way. Oops. Great, so we can see interactive experience. You just go ahead to sweep away the hearts. So this is Opus. We enhanced the prompt. We put it in plan mode, both of them in Opus, and then we press send. So it's looking pretty promising so far. It would be incredible if it gets this first shot. So enable camera. Now let's see. Wow, look at that. I don't know if you guys are impressed, but I certainly am. It's a fun little way to interact with the site. It's cool. You can think of all sorts of gamification applications to this. And I don't know if you've got kids or someone that you want to play around with. There's all sorts of hand features that you can do. Whether you've got your hand open or closed, that can also have an effect on the UI. So just like that, we've been able to implement. And if we refresh, let's see what happens. Okay, so it's asked us for the camera again, and then we can continue. So we could also add, maybe like a layer blur to the hero, and it only gets removed once all of the hearts have disappeared or something like that. Now, what I'm going to do is come into publish. No security issues have been detected, which is great. Let's hit publish, and we'll let it publish the site. Now, I'm sure some of you know that when we do publish, it goes to a subdomain of Bolt.Host. And now, because we launched Bolt.Host just a matter of weeks ago, or sort of a few months ago now, what it means is that, we still haven't had too many people claim some of those subdomains. So if I come up into here and I change this, her name's Tammy, there we go, it's available. So I can simply save like this. And when I was actually looking at this in preparation for this call, I looked up the subdomain mum, and it was available. So it's pretty incredible that, all of these subdomains at .bolt.host are still available, so that, if you did have somebody and you wanted to use their first name, there is a good likelihood that you'd be able to add it directly. So now we're just going to go tammy.bolt.host. We'll look at the site, and then we have, so I'll just make sure that, we are now enable the webcam, and I think, it's actually having issues on the live deployed site. So maybe that's something else I can prompt. Not sure exactly why that is. I'll come in, I'll add that to the prompt. So the hand gestures to remove the love hearts are working on the site preview in Bolt. However, on the published site, it's not working. Please help me fix. This guy out of the way. Send that off. Great. Okay. So, in less than an hour, we've been able to create this new site. We've been able to implement computer vision, which is kind of fun and distracting. We've been able to implement the database, add reviews, and add password protection onto the website using, a server function instead of just a fake password and having it on the client side code. Great, so we'll just wait for this to fix. Hopefully it's able to fix it so that on the published version, it's working. Now, looks like we've actually finished ahead of time for probably the first time ever on these workshops. What I can do is I can use this time to, if we've got any more questions, feel free to raise your hands. Also happy to let you guys know about our roadmap for next year. So we're going to be putting a lot of focus on establishing sort of teams and collaboration between people. So this is something that I have ran into myself when I've been pushing apps to the App Store. Um, you might be able to do 95% of the build yourself, but there may be just that maybe one feature that you aren't able to create or whatever it may be. Maybe you need specialized knowledge for something. Now, we're putting a lot of investment into our teams and making sure that you're able to share your projects with other people. You'll notice that we've now added this share option up here. So, there's more work coming here, but the idea is that we are making it we're trying to make it as simple as possible to share your projects with others. We've also we're in the process of launching image generation directly inside of the app itself. So that leans on Nano Banana and
Oh, sweet.
yeah, so that's coming. I think we've been in the process of rolling it out. So we've just been testing that. It should be fully rolled out this week, where you can, as I was saying, you can directly generate images within your app and then add them to your site wherever need be instead of relying on stock footage or images that you upload yourself. Great, so let's see if it's fixed this. I'm going to publish that. Okay, and now maybe we can use this extra time. If you've got any feedback about these workshops so far, I'd love to hear. I know some of you have been doing a really good job leaving reviews in the Luma. That's been super helpful. We've already been planning our content for the next year. So some of those type forms that we've been sending out and some of the feedback in the Luma really goes a long way in terms of helping us create content that you'll actually use and you find useful. So also relating to what Donald said in the chat, when it comes to rolling back your database and backing up your database and figuring out branching, that's something that we're well aware of. That maybe for our free users, it's maybe not that important for them, but for people like you, our premium customers who have production level apps and you don't want to break the database for all of your current paying customers, then that's something that we will be prioritizing as well. Great. Okay, so let's refresh this. Let's have a look how it goes. Okay, we are having issues with that again. So maybe that is something that will need a little bit more prompting. So it's actually working on the deployed side. So I guess what I've wanted to, articulate again here is that sometimes in the deployed site itself, you might get a slight different experience. So that's good for you to test. Let's have a look. I think, yeah, still having issues there. So I think that probably needs a little bit of fine tuning. Oh, whoops, that was my other one. And yeah, it's working as I was saying, on this preview, but it's also good to check how it implements on the deployed site. Great. Do we have any questions from anybody? We've got a few minutes to spare. Any questions about Bolt in general or ideas, suggestions? Randy?
Yeah, I'm planning out my next project,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be a little bit more in depth than this little customer review analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really looking at trying to go mobile first.
Mm-hmm.
So possibly with Expo,
Mm-hmm.
we need GPS tracking. I've got a company where we do hiking challenges. Right now, they basically download a PDF and fill everything by hand, and it's been that way for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really wanting to up the game on that business and have a full-blown app, GPS tracking, all that kind of stuff. So would Expo be the way to go? And do you think I can get it past MVP to a full pledge on the App Store and
Yeah.
run?
Yeah, no, Expo, like they've absolutely been taking the world by storm. Like they've been doing such a great job. And the great thing about them is, developing in React Native means that when you can, it's super easy for you to push to both iOS devices, Android devices, and then also web as well. So you can have a look on, I think Expo has like a showcase. Uh, and you can have a look and see some of the apps that basically use Expo. So um, it's it looks like Coinbase. I know this is someone's personal website, so it looks like their blog. So I don't know how maybe reliable this source is, but there definitely are. You can look into maybe Expo. So Particle, for example, Insider, some of these here. They do have some pretty impressive names that have been developing on Expo. So um,
In the
it's
past,
mm,
I did notice that if you're trying to test the app
mhm,
within Bolt without actually scanning the QR code, going over to your phone and running it through Expo with your phone,
mhm.
running it through the kind of preview within Bolt didn't always work.
Yes.
So I spent a lot of time thinking, crap, my app's not working, my app's not working. Then I finally scanned the QR code, went to my phone with the Expo Live, and boom, it was working. In fact, I just still wasn't working in the preview within Bolt. So is
Hmm.
that still the case?
Last time I checked it, I was having some issues with that. That may have been a few months ago. So that's maybe something we can bring up with the team and understand why
It
that
just makes
is.
it really time consuming where I'm constantly
Yeah,
having to
on the
scan the
phone.
QR code. I got to wait for it to load for 45 seconds to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Test it, work it, then go back to Bolt,
Hmm.
then go scan it again.
Hmm.
So it's a constant back and forth between my cell phone and
Yeah.
waiting for it to load.
Hmm. Yeah. No, thanks, Randy. That's some really good feedback. We'll make sure we'll get that through to the team.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe even try to ask it to also make it work for the web, because React Native is going to use native component of Android and iOS. So, like, if the component is not existent on normal React or like web, it might not work. So, if you specifically ask to make it work for the web as well, it should display properly.
Okay.
Mm. And that's probably a good example coming back to that project knowledge that we were talking about, something that you could put in there. I am using React Native, I'm using Expo, and make sure that everything that you build is compatible for web as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. I just didn't know if I could put in like GPS controls, tracking, all that kind of stuff if I went 100% web based.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to be able to use that GPS that's tied into the cell phone if it's just web based for tracking.
Yeah, I
I even
believe.
looked up maps and stuff,
Mhm.
but
Hmm.
like for tracking someone's height,
Yeah,
I was
so
going to use like Mapbox.
yes. I mean, like you can, implement the location using, I guess, like web and um, like the devices itself. So um, yeah, I guess that it should work. Like there are plenty of web apps we've been building that use the device location, even if it's just on web.
Just on the web. Okay, I'll have
Yeah.
to test that out.
Yeah. I think it just, it comes up with that little drop down if you're on Chrome on the left and it says, allow my location, or if you're on a phone, it'll just have a little pop up. Yeah. I think we've got uh, some recent tutorials on Mapbox, so maybe have a look on our YouTube there if you want to implement those, Randy.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
cool. Great. Now, some of you probably saw um, in the description for this that we would be giving you guys a little Christmas or a holiday special. So for everybody who used Luma to join this call, which I believe you all had to go via Luma, all of your emails are collected there. So we'll be sending out a merch link for everybody. So you may notice that like Sometimes we've been wearing some Bolt merchandise. So if you do choose to redeem that, that should be sent out via your email. And if you do want, I'm not sure exactly which item we've selected, but there will be a link sent to your email so you can redeem some Bolt, so you can rep us if you want.
Yep. Got a sweatshirt in the mail yesterday.
Oh, did you? Nice. Was that the Pika integration one or?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
With the two fists
Nice.
connecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks again for joining, everybody. I hope you found this workshop productive and useful. I hope maybe you've learned a few more things that you didn't know about beforehand. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas holiday, well, holidays in general. I hope whatever it is that you're celebrating, I hope you have a wonderful time with friends and family, and you're able to reflect on the year and get really recharged for 2026, because we keep seeing the agents get better and better and better, and it's super empowering for people like us who are able to just create more and more. So our first workshop, I think we're going to be moving it to a Tuesday starting next year. So, or my apologies, I think we'll be doing the workshops on a Thursday, and then we'll be doing office hours on a Tuesday. So we'll be doing office hours every second week. We didn't have a huge amount of attendance for that when we've been testing it the last few months. So we're also getting somebody from, EPD, engineering, product, and design, to be on each of those calls as well. So we should be a little bit more stacked when it comes to the support you'll be seeing on those office hours calls. So they'll be on every second Tuesday. The first one will start on the 6th of January. And then, as I said, we'll be having our workshops on the Thursdays. So I hope that suits everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful time, have a wonderful New Year's, and thanks again for joining.